Guys, so yesterday I posted up an article looking at pain that you can experience when cycling in your foot, and more specifically in the front part of your foot. What I wanted to do in these videos during the week was to explain a little bit about the anatomy relating to the problem, a little bit about how you can actually assess the problem, and then looking at sort of what ways you can address the problem with bike fit, with your shoe, your cleat setup, and also a little bit on sort of physio and rehab for these problems. So stay tuned and we're going to cover all the details this week. We're going to take a look at the anatomy now that we're referring to when we talk about this problem. So first up, it's good to orientate ourselves to the foot. So we've got a foot joint here. We're going to come down into the midfoot joints here and then down into the metatarsal bones here. Okay, so these are the long bones in our feet that then join onto the toes. In between each of the toes, we have the interdigital nerves and also the bursa, which is that fluid-filled sac, that padding area. Now, these run in between each of these joints and are therefore liable to compression when we're within a cycling shoe and applying pressure down through that pedal. Where we most commonly see this problem develop is between the third and the fourth toe, but it can also happen between the second and the third toe. The characteristic symptoms that we see are burning, tingling, or shooting pains down into the toes, or even numbness that lasts while you're applying pressure, or as it gets more severe, can continue on during a ride and become persistent even after a ride. So stay tuned and we start to look at how you can test for this and what you can do about it. So there are some really simple tests you can do to establish whether this might well be the source of the problems that you're experiencing when you're cycling. Ideally, it's best done when the foot is slightly aggravated, as the test will be more sensitive and be able to give you a more clear indication as to whether this is the problem. So first up, we can do what's called the squeeze test. So essentially all you need to do is to take your hand around your foot and squish those metatarsal phalangeal joints, okay, so those joints right across the forefoot together, and see if we reproduce either any of that pain, any of that tingling, or any of those shooting symptoms down the foot. The second test will be the pinch test. So this is where we're going to come across the top and bottom of the joint here, okay? So we're going to go between the second and third first, have a little pinch there, and then between the third and fourth. And again, if we pinch through there and develop those symptoms, again, it's quite likely that these structures are the ones that are contributing to your symptoms. When it comes to comfort of the front half of your foot, the size and shape of your shoe is absolutely vital. We need to make sure that the length is appropriate for the foot, but that crucially the width is allowing the foot to spread out and relax into the shoe. So it's really important that you measure the shape of your foot and that it corresponds well to your shoe. You can either do this at home by tracing out your foot, measuring the length and measuring the width, and seeing that the shoe that you intend to buy actually manages to accommodate your foot well. Or if you come for a bike fit session, we would either use a Brannock device to carefully measure your foot and establish suitable shoes, or use a measuring stick again to give us these measurements. The selection of shoes I've got here are all the same size, but there's a 15mm difference in the width of each last, which can make a great difference to how comfortable your feet will be when you're out on the road riding. So another factor to consider is where the actual cleat is positioned. So this makes a big difference because this is what essentially connects you to the pedal and where you therefore apply the force through. The general advice I give to people is to find where your foot sits within the shoe. Find the big toe joint, okay, so that's that little ridgy bit on the inside, okay, that inside knuckle, which I've then made a line for on the shoe, and see where this corresponds to the ridge on the inside of your cleat. Now, pretty much all road cleats will have a little marking on the inside here to show where the pedal axle is. And ideally, we want this pedal axle to be behind that first toe joint. Otherwise, what we'll tend to do is press through our toes and claw our toes up as we pedal. And this will massively increase the likelihood of developing those symptoms again, burning, tingling, and numbness into the toes. We've talked a little bit about shoe shape and sizing. The next thing that's worth considering if you're having problems with pain in the front of your foot is what's inside the shoe. So we're talking about insoles. They come in a variety of flavors. Most of the time when you buy a stock shoe, you're just going to get a pretty basic insole that doesn't provide much of any support. So pretty flexible, pretty flimsy, nothing going on there. When we're putting our foot inside a shoe that has a fairly rigid sole compared to any conventional trainers, we generally need to provide the foot a little bit more in the way of support, foot contact area to help spread the pressure out, and this becomes really important in the forefoot. So a shoe insole that has some kind of a metatarsal button might not be easy to see, but you just see a little raise there, will help to spread those toes out a little bit as they come into the toe box of the shoe and reduce that pressure in between the joints and the nerves. So I tend to use a G8 performance insole because it allows full customization of the position of the arch and the height of the arch, but also has this little bit of support at the mount button and also secures the heel. And this can make a massive difference in going all the way from having foot tingling, burning and numbness to just having foot comfort and better performance and power through the pedal as well. So I hope you found the videos that I've put up this week helpful on understanding a little bit more about what contributes to developing pain in the front of your foot, those tingling and numbness sensations, but also what we can do about it. There's lots of different things that we can throw at this problem, and we've not even managed to cover all the things that there are. So I hope there's been some good self-help tips for you, but also know that if you're not able to solve the problem, that you should be seeking help. And if you've got any questions or you'd like to know more about this topic, then please put some comments below or email me on info@thebitethebody.com, and I hope to catch up with you guys soon with some more helpful videos and tips.